already getting a bad feeling. Yeah, there's no way. All right, well, I need to find a safe pull off. If you're new around here, we've been full-time on the road for just under 4 years in our Lance truck camper. We spent 3 months over the winter in Baja, California, and now we're on a 6,000-mile journey to Seward, Alaska. We recently crossed back into the United States, and today we're headed north through Arizona and up into Utah. Welcome back, everybody. We are north of Payson, Arizona. Just went through the town of Pine, and we're headed towards Alaska ultimately, but in the short term, we've got a beautiful camp spot that a friend of mine suggested that is supposedly going to be overlooking the rim of this big giant canyon. You'll also notice that my passenger seat is empty. So Marissa has been in New Jersey. I dropped her off about 2 weeks ago after we got over the border. She's doing a whole bunch of Airbnb stuff, working on our small business, and I am driving from Phoenix to Portland without her. We've got 11 minutes until we get to our supposed camp spot, and I'm hopeful that 1, there's no low trees, 2, that it's not closed due to seasonality. We are at pretty high elevation here in Arizona, I don't know exactly what, and so there's a theoretical potential that the road could be closed. The other thing I guess I'm gonna have to get used to it because we're driving to Alaska in early season, is the fact that it's gonna be really cold tonight. We're expecting temperatures in and around the 20s, and that's in the town of Pine, not at the high elevations where I'm headed in order to do some hopefully awesome camping. And then when we get to camp, I'll show you guys some of the new improvements and projects that I've been doing on the camper and some changes that we've made to help make camper life a little bit better. I'm already getting a bad feeling about the likelihood that this camp spot's open. As I'm driving along here, there are a lot of these little forest roads, and so far gates have been closed, and we're continuing to climb an elevation for the next 3 miles before our turnoff, and I am gonna guess that this camp spot is gonna be a bust. The other thing I didn't think about was snow. I had talked with my buddy about the possibility of snow. We kind of agreed it was unlikely, but this is supposed to be my pull-off coming up here. Yeah, there's no way.
You have arrived.
You got a gate closed sign with an orange ribbon on it. I don't know if you can see it there. Along with a downed tree. So, I'm gonna have to regroup here and figure out where I'm gonna camp, and hopefully somewhere that's gonna have a sweet view for this video. And the ability to get out and maybe ride the dirt bike or ride something else that we got that we haven't talked about yet, which is one of the new items, upgrades. All right, well, I need to find a safe pull off and figure this out. I don't know about you, but I have a handful of things that I always check before a long drive day. My engine oil is one of them. I also make sure to check all of my turnbuckles before we get on a long road trip. Make sure that they're at the proper tightness. These are the Torque Lift Fast Guns. I have the shortest model available, which is part of what allows it to work for my flatbed setup. But one thing that you probably don't think of checking before you get on the road is your max fan. That is one item that you should either make sure is fully open or fully closed when you are driving down the road. All of these items on my checklist are available on eTrailer.com. We recently upgraded our max fan to the one that you see above my head. I went with the manual version with the smoked lens. The reason I went with the manual version is because I knew that I had a very tight clearance between my solar panels and the max fan cover. And so if I had the power one, I was concerned about hitting it and disrupting the motor, but this thing is perfect. It has multiple speeds, blows inward and outward, and can be thermostatically controlled. We have the exact same unit up in the front of our camper, and the beauty of having two of these is you can have the air circulating inward on one and outward on the other to get a great airflow inside of your truck, camper, van, or RV. Be sure to use the description in the link below if you want to get your max fan or torque lift turnbuckles for these summer expeditions you got coming up. The decision I made was to just keep going further north. So I powered through Flagstaff other than stopping at Planet Fitness for a quick workout, and now I'm headed towards the Grand Canyon. I got a spot from a friend recommended to me that is just outside of like the southern entrance of Grand Canyon, so we'll see what that has to offer. It's a very common overlander spot, it looks like, because you can cruise right into the park. And then I think the plan is going to be to head towards Page, Arizona, and camp at Lone Rock Campground, I think it's called, Lone Rock Beach. I am still a little bummed that this morning's original plan to campsite didn't work out. Like, it would have been great to do some snow camping. Being up by the Grand Canyon is also awesome, but the landscape of the arid desert here is not as beautiful to me personally as like mountains and big giant trees and stuff like that. The good part is it's definitely going to be warmer here, so it should be more pleasurable to get outside and do some outdoor activities, whereas back in Pine it would have been super cold. Oh, I left the cat's water dish on the ground when we left Planet Fitness in Flagstaff. Now we got water all over the ground. Sadly, I won't be able to do one of my favorite things when making a YouTube video, and that is drone shots. That is because we're too close to the Grand Canyon National Park, and so you need to be authorized in order to fly here. So let's go stand up on the roof and check out the view from up here. While we're up on the roof, I'm going to tell you about one of the things that I had been doing while in Gilbert, Arizona at our friend's Jensen Adventures house. So first and foremost, views, landscape, don't fall off the roof. There's still snow on the ground. Let's see, right over there. So that definitely means it's going to get plenty cold tonight. And the thing that I was doing at Jensen Adventures, one of them, was putting on new solar panels. These are two 400-watt Bougie RV bifacial solar panels that I mounted on our roof rack. I had to do a slight roof raise or roof rack raise in order to make these fit, and they still aren't exactly perfect. I'm gonna make some additional changes in order to perfect this whole setup here, but 800 watts just on the roof rack, and then 400 watts worth of Bougie RV panels up there in the front. Two separate Victron solar controllers. We were bringing in over 1,000 watts of solar today. I had the fridge on AC electric, I had the hot water heater running on electric, and I still had a full battery without even using my DC to DC charger. The other thing that we did, let's see if we can get it, is we changed where we have Starlink. So Starlink used to be on the right-hand side of our solar array, and the flaw to that was, well, one, obviously it wouldn't fit with these two big old panels up here, but then two, sometimes if you'd park under a tree, having it on the right-hand side would lend it to be blocked by a tree. So I know it doesn't seem like a big deal, but a lot of time, like, I'll leave the laptop just uploading a YouTube video or to Patreon, which you should join. Check out our Patreon page at the Cummins Camper, and I'll leave the truck, you know, somewhere on the side of a road, and me and Marissa will go have dinner or whatever. And I've had it where I have blockages. Now Starlink's gonna be centered up on the top of the camper there. Big thanks to Chad from Jensen Adventures on helping me commit to hard mounting that using some strut channel. So for dinner, we are doing a big ribeye. Then I'm also gonna do some white rice and some Brussels sprouts. And that's the healthy stuff. The unhealthy stuff is for dessert. I'll save that for a little bit. I won't tell you about it just yet, but it's a spin on one of Marissa's normal desserts that if she were here, she wouldn't allow this because it's too fatty and terrible for you. So if you're wondering why we need so much solar to go all the way up to 1200 watts, well, we're supposed to be getting a 12 volt AC that also has electric heat to the tune of 4800 BTUs. So if I have enough solar up there, I can sustainably run the air conditioning or heat and not have to use my diesel heater like I am right now, for example. And then also it allows us to do things like I was mentioning before when I was on the roof, run the hot water on electric, have an electric fridge. And with the amount of solar that we have, I can just like continue to run the fridge on electric for quite a while before converting it over to propane again. And it just amounts to that much more savings and also fewer trips to pick up propane. While this rice boils, time to get our ribeye ready. I saw recently that you're supposed to let the salt sit on your steak for quite a while. Oh, bloody mess. Not in the English, British style. A bloody mess. Time for a healthy portion of salt because it is a ribeye and we are not messing around in terms of making sure this thing comes out phenomenal. And we could use some pepper on there too. In my opinion, a ribeye especially should be done in a cast iron pan with a good bit of butter and the willingness to add more butter to it. While this ribeye cooks, I'm watching one of my favorite YouTube channels, The Story Till Now. The dude is a bit more of a documentarian of his travels than just a vlogger, I would say. And he's usually in a Jeep. He has or had in previous videos a Ram 2500, 3500 with a four-wheel drive camper on it. But his videos are really, really nicely blended between cinematic and kind of just raw adventure filming. So yeah, that's what I'm watching right now while this ribeye is cooking. And that right there, folks, is why you cook with a mega amount of butter in a cast iron pan for your ribeye, is that crusty crust on the outside.
It continues like the flat eroded out of the snow line. The snow is wet and slushy and slippery.
Something I've seen on TikTok is about how a steak you want to be able to almost audibly hear the crust. Let's see if we can hear it. I don't know if that's what it's supposed to sound like, but it is a nice firm crust. Let's try a little sample of this. Make sure it's perfectly done, which it's looking like it is. I've never had ribeyes a lot, like buying steak on my own. And I know why. It's because this is a $20 steak when you buy it from Costco. So it isn't cheap, but I eat steak so infrequently that if I'm gonna have it, I might as well have a really, really delicious steak. That is ridiculous. I'm gonna let that sit and rest and do these Brussels sprouts real quick. I'm gonna get to eating this delicious meal. I'm gonna start with 1/2 of this big giant ribeye, but let's cut into this together. Then we can share in the magical moment that is medium rare steak. How's it look, guys? Is it perfect? I can't tell. Oh, it's perfect. It's perfect. Yeah, right there on the cusp of rare to medium rare. Perfection. If you haven't had this Japanese barbecue sauce, you are missing out. This was the first thing that I got sauce-wise when we got back to the US after my buddy Chad from Jensen Adventures let me have some at their house. I am fully addicted. White rice, Brussels sprouts. I don't know if I need any of my steak. Steak's probably perfect by itself. I didn't eat much today, so this is just killing it. Work into the steak here. Oh my gosh, so soft. The colors. It's got a little bit of cat hair on there. Typical of having a pet. I'm thinking it's pretty unlikely that I don't finish both halves of this tonight. It is pretty cold out. I was wrong. I think earlier I mentioned that I thought it was going to be warmer where I was ending up, but it is significantly colder than I expected. Tonight we have a low expected temperature of 23 here outside of the Grand Canyon, and you can feel it in the camper that it's cold out there. It's currently 34 degrees out, and inside 68 degrees, so we're staying comfortable in here, but it's going to be one of the colder nights that we've spent in the camper in a long time. I can't think of the last time. Maybe in Utah when I was there this fall it was down in the 20s, but I don't think it was like 23. I also got in a little bit of editing time on the laptop, hanging out with Hayes. He's just chilling on the table, staying warm and toasty, and I am going to get ready for bed. I will pick you guys up in the morning, and we'll go maybe do a little exploring. Good morning. What a beautiful day. Slept super good last night. One of the best parts about the desert Southwest is when the sun comes out in the morning, man, it transitions from cold to warm really fast. Like, outside air temperature right now is probably still in the high 30s, maybe 40s, but with the sun hitting me, where's that big ball in the sky, it is feeling really comfortable. It's a muddy mess out here, literally, not figuratively, from the snow that they got here in Arizona. I think it was like last week, but it's a very pretty camp spot. I just realized too last night, this is the first night I've ever boondocked alone if you don't include parking lots. I've done many nights in parking lots alone where Marissa's gone back to New Jersey, but very rarely have I been out in the wild camping by myself. So didn't die, that's always good. Smooth as a baby's bottom. And this morning, hopefully we're gonna take out our new toy that I was telling you about yesterday. But before we take out the new toy, I have some adult work to do. So back into the camper for me. The camper is consistently much more messy when Marissa's not around. I definitely turned this place into a bachelor pad in terms of the lack of cleanliness real fast. Last night, when I was cooking that delicious ribeye, I needed to open up the vent in order to let some of the smoke out, and someone forgot to close that vent before bed. So 29 degrees for a low last night, and I'm in here just letting all the hot air from the diesel heater go right on out into the world. Thankfully, the diesel heater did a great job keeping up. We stayed warm and toasty all last night. And from here, it's supposed to continue to warm up, so hopefully last night was our last night in the 20s. Fingers crossed for a little while. Once I'm done with my adulting portion of the day, we'll go do some fun stuff together. Now that it's warmed up a little bit out here, let's go show you guys what we added to the back of our rig. So we are now the proud owners of an e-bike. This is a 2-person e-bike. I'm pretty stoked on it. I rode it the other day while I was in Gilbert at Jensen Adventures house. Went and picked up some stuff from the hardware store. But today, we're gonna break this bad boy loose and see how it does on some forest roads. Another really nice part about an e-bike compared to the dirt bike is the load and unload time is way faster with the e-bike. It's not super light, but it's like 80 pounds. You can just kind of drop it on the ground. Then when you load it back up, just pop that back wheel up there, pick it up, strap it back down. So I see us using this a lot. This thing is super fun. I was just cruising along the trail and came along some people that didn't look very, I don't know how to say this. They look homeless as It's the only way to put it. So I turned around and now we're just out on a main gravel road. This thing's gonna be a fun little asset to our life, being able to just kind of cruise around without committing to taking out the dirt bike and all the proper safety gear you're supposed to wear with that. This thing did surprisingly well going up that hill before there. I was expecting it to not do all that good, but it's got a little bit of front suspension on it. Technically it's got rear suspension, although you don't really feel that much. But we're cruising along right on the border of the national park here, and just doing a little power line kind of trail. This thing definitely passes the test for a fun little toy and another viable vehicle for just kind of getting around when you don't want to break camp, or if you want to go explore a little town or city or something like that. Throw me and Marissa on here. Now, we're back at camp. So one of the things that you got to account for when you're trying to generate as much electricity as possible and all your solar is on your roof versus being deployable is where are the trees at a certain time of day. As the sun is coming around, it's around like 1:30 right now. I can tell that our rig is gonna end up in the shade because of these trees over here. So what I'm gonna do is a little move around, a little fire drill action here, and slide the camper over here. And now we'll make an abundance of solar for the rest of the day. I'm recharging the e-bike's battery. I'm also running the electric hot water heater, the fridge on electric, laptop, TV. Yeah, whole bunch of juice. But we're making close to like 4 kilowatt hours worth of power per day, which if you don't know a ton about solar, that's a ton of power for one RV's roof. I was checking out the stats today, and I think I saw that it made 870 watts from that one array that is advertised at 800. Maybe that's part of the bifacial aspect of it. Maybe it's because they're brand new, but just cranking energy out there. I'm gonna keep the Honda generator until we get back from Alaska, but as soon as we get back from Alaska, that thing's getting sold. So some friends that I met last summer in Crested Butte are coming to camp out tonight. They've got a truck camper themselves and are traveling around the country. They're from Texas originally, I believe. And yeah, small world situation. I met them in Crested Butte because they recognized my big ugly face walking down Main Street, and came up to me and were like, "You the Cummins camper guy?" I'm like, "Sure am, bud. This is what you got." But yeah, hung out with Drake and his wife a couple of times last summer, and then hung out with Drake again this fall. And here we are, springtime, about to hang out again. It's a pretty day, but like, it's so breezy. Making this fire is a little bit nerve-wracking. The ground's plenty wet, but I just am always trying to make sure I'm on the right side of forest fires by not contributing to them. When I got here, the campfire setup was just a big giant mound. So I'm like, I'm gonna dismantle this thing, start a fresh one. I cleaned out a bunch of garbage that was in there. As usual, a whole bunch of beer cans and other stuff, like a coffee can. One of the nice things about our travel timeline this year is we will be, one, likely to be ahead of mosquitoes and bugs, and then two, we will be well ahead of fire season. So when we're at beautiful camp spots like this, we'll be able to make a campfire without worrying about being outside of the law. Pretty awesome camp spot here. Definitely zero disappointments. Definitely excited also to be headed further north tomorrow. Probably gonna head towards Page, like I was talking about before, with Lone Rock Beach, and camp there. But also excited to get to Salt Lake City, where you guys have seen me before at the boat dealership. I'm not really gonna be working much there because it's pretty early in the year for them to be employing me. But I do have a bunch of projects that I still have to do on the camper before we go to Alaska, so I wanna get started on those too. We spent the rest of our night hanging out by the campfire, sharing stories of our recent travels and talking of our plans for where we're headed this summer. Drake and Caden are headed towards Michigan, and Marissa and I are headed towards Alaska, so this will probably be the last time our paths cross for a while. I've got a 3-hour drive today, headed up towards Page, Utah, really going to Lone Rock Beach. So today's agenda is to try and hit up some beautiful viewpoints in the Grand Canyon since we're here and in the area, and then head on further north to Lone Rock Beach and do a little bit more camping before making a big push to Salt Lake City. I just got off the phone with Marissa. Everything's going super well at home in terms of Airbnb, small business related work. She's gonna end up probably finishing up early, which is kind of nice. But let's get into the Grand Canyon and go see some views. How we doing?
Thank you. The amount today?
Sure. Probably irresponsible not to.
Welcome to Grand Canyon. Have a great day.
Thanks, man. You also. So I'm going to check out, I think it's called Mather's Viewpoint. And that'll probably be my one like major view of the Grand Canyon, just so that I can get on the road.
There's a little creek down that way. On that one. Right down there.
So when people say that national parks can become a little bit like Disney, this next area is exactly what they're talking about. So many people down there, they're like little ants.
Over there.
It's the perfect time of year to be here, so I can understand why it's super busy. The weather is perfect. I need to fix that door. Sounds terrible. Is the Grand Canyon lovely? Yes, it's spectacular. If you've never been, you should absolutely go. If you've been before, you probably don't need to come back. Because I will say, on my second visit here, I don't know, it's fine. It's great, you know, it's cool to look at. I really like Canyonlands better. If we're picking, you know, national parks that cater to the canyon style viewpoints, definitely a bigger fan of Canyonlands than I am of the Grand Canyon. I felt like with Canyonlands, you had a lot of really good viewing opportunities. Like as you drove through the park, there were just infinite number of drive up, walk 100 feet or less, bang, super good views. But the Grand Canyon, there's like a handful, unless you want to drive all the way to the North Rim, which is supposed to be the best. But that, I looked at it, was like a 4-hour ride, because you're just looping around the whole Grand Canyon. I'm not able to do that, I just don't have the time. So, off I go towards Page, Utah, Page, Arizona, and should be there in about 2 hours and 45 minutes. That spot there that I just drove by and filmed is a spot where you would go to do one of the most popular hikes in the Grand Canyon. It takes you down in. You can also ride donkeys down into the Grand Canyon if you're super lazy or technically, you know, not well enough to do it on your own. But it's also where I met my friends from Barely Squeaking By. I mentioned them a bunch on this channel, but Jay and Aubrey, ran into them here. I was that exact spot where we all had our trucks parked and took a picture. I'll insert it again here.
So this is like they did a combination of CGI and...
This is a super beautiful part of the drive. We're in Bitter Springs, coming up on a little scenic overlook here. It is vast out there, absolutely vast. The drive from the Grand Canyon up to Lone Rock Beach, just outside of Big Water, Utah, is about a 3-hour drive at truck camper speeds. Thankfully, it's full of beautiful views you'd expect when you drive through the desert Southwest. The landscape changes constantly, from the mountains right into huge open spans of nothingness, then to hydroelectric dams. It's just so impressive how many changes there are in the topography in only a few short hours of driving through the US at times. It is 3:14 in the afternoon and I have consumed an apple today. So I'm gonna make some food first and foremost. A little shredded cheese goes a long way in making things look prettier. Check this out. Oh yeah. A bite with the ribeye. So good. Cold was the right choice on the meat. No regrets there. And I'm gonna get a chair set up and go eat the rest of this outside because it's pretty out there. Not a bad spot for having lunch, right? Right on the shores of Lake Powell. I don't know why I don't park closer to the water though, other than the fact that I'm already set up and I had to put myself on some leveling blocks, and I don't want to undo that. But there's a Jeep and a trailer down by the water. I'm like, it's stupid that everybody's up here. I get it if you have like a giant motorhome, but for those of us that are driving capable rigs, I mean, the view's very nice from up here. You can see more of the surrounding area. Really, really yummy. It could also be because I was super hungry from not eating. So I hate to stop a drive day to eat, like especially cooking in the camper. Not worth the time and energy that goes into it. That's why usually I'll just bring an apple or something like that in the truck for a snack and then starve until I get to my destination. That was delicious. I needed that so badly. So this combination is supposed to make the best brownies that you could ever ask for. The key ingredient is this sweetened condensed milk here, and it seems insane to pour a whole can of that into one box of brownies, but we're gonna do it anyway because it's all over my TikTok and Instagram feed that this is supposed to be amazing. Here we go. So just pour your normal brownie mix in. Nothing super special. 2 eggs. God, I feel fat already. Marissa doesn't really drink coffee, but one of her favorite ways to have coffee at home is with sweetened condensed milk in it. But the calories are incredibly high in this stuff. That's why we're putting it into a whole thing of brownie mix, so that we can make these incredibly unhealthy brownies instead of just already unhealthy. And if you're new around here, this is our oven. It's basically a bundt pan in terms of how everything comes out in shape. The heat comes up through the center there, lid on top, creates a vortex. We make a lot of brownies, these other things that are called snickerdoodles. We've also made lasagna in here. It's a pretty good little oven for, you know, if you only have a stovetop. So, bad news is 1 box of brownie mix and a whole thing of sweetened condensed milk is too much material or volume for the Omni, or the Omnia. The good news is I'm just gonna eat all this batter. The best thing I can compare it to is how Ben & Jerry's brownie batter would taste if it were not ice cream and it was just their straight batter. So I think I put too much brownie batter in the Omnia. It should have definitely less than what I put in, because probably also with the sweetened condensed milk, it had a very hard time solidifying. It took forever. This was more than 30 minutes for sure, but the sample bites I've had so far have been delicious. So let's find out how a real bite tastes. I'm definitely destroying this thing. Yeah. If you like to have brownies, if that's one of your preferred dessert choices, you definitely have to do it with the sweetened condensed milk. Maybe not all the time, because you'll get diabetes. So soft and moist and fudgy. And of course sweet, but not like too sweet. Because that's the part I was worried about most. Was it being too sweet? I'll pick you guys up in the morning, and I'm hoping that I'm going to be motivated enough to get my dirt bike off the rack and go for a ride out here. Good night. Well, I never made it to the shoreline of Lake Powell on the dirt bike. Unfortunately, it requires a permit to go down there because the water level is so low. Rather than getting possibly in trouble, I turned around and did the responsible thing. Very pretty out here though. These canyon walls are amazingly stunning. Stoked to be back out on the dirt bike. Haven't ridden this thing, oh gosh, since probably September. It's March now, but I missed it. I missed riding this thing. It's a blast. But I think it's time to kind of head back home. Got 28 miles on so far, probably about the same to get back. Good little morning. Leaving Lake Powell was a huge bummer. As I was leaving, the weather was coming into perfection in the 70s during the day, 50s at night, but unfortunately, I need to get to Salt Lake City in order for us to make progress towards Alaska. Be sure to like this video, subscribe, and if you're not a Patreon member, be sure to check us out over there at patreon.com/thecumminscamper. Bye!